This time on the show, hacking the firmware on your digital SLR, an Android app to open your garage door, booting all your favorite distros from a single USB drive the easy way, and we read your email. I mean, the ones you send us, not just like the ones sitting in your inbox that might be a little weird.
Yeah, hook me up, I'm ready.
This episode of Hack 5 is brought to you by the United States Air Force. Got a great idea? It all starts with a great domain, domain.com. And go to Assist Express.
Hello and welcome to Hack 5. I'm Jason Applebaum.
I'm Darren Kitchen.
And this is your weekly dose of Technolust. This week we're going to be talking about Android garage door app controlling from the week before, and Shannon's got Katana, which is a bootloader of some sort.
It's a sweet boot kit. It's like
boot kit. That's right. That's right.
All sorts of cool utilities and fun hacker stuff. But man, you want to talk about some fun hacker stuff?
Firmware, open source firmware.
Okay, so one of these is cheap. This is a 550D.
Which one of these is not like the other?
So one of these. Okay, so these are the Canon T2i.
T2i or 550D.
Right, and these are relatively inexpensive when you can.
Hold on. Relatively inexpensive?
Okay, hang on.
They're $1,000.
All right, this is cheap. That is very expensive.
Yes.
And with an SD card and some free software, you can have something close-ish.
Ish. I actually think that the quality we're getting, I point to these guys, the quality we're getting here is not as good as you're going to get from this because you've got the sweet lens, the great CCD behind it, and but this offers limitations. It didn't have audio meters, and when you're working with especially working with video, audio meters are really, really important.
That's actually the reason why I got the T2i, not just because you got it and I wanted to cramp your style, but it's the least expensive digital SLR that you can get that has that. Not even that. That's not what I care about. I just care about having a mic in jack because the camera's worthless without that.
But now we have a mic in jack with levels. I don't know if I can
take video with interchangeable lenses, so I can pop a f2.8 lens. Sorry, we're really geeking out here on the video stuff, so if you don't care, I'm sorry, just skip. But seriously, a Cine Alta f35 would cost you like $150,000, and you can pick up $1,000 of camera, $500 of glass, and some open source stuff, and get some decent looking shots.
The big thing about Magic Lantern is it's easy to install. Even though it's firmware, they still make it really, really
Well, I guess we should address what the core of the problem is. That yes, these cameras record video just natively out of the box. Canon's even done a little bit of updating the firmwares to make them a little bit better. They were initially a little bit buggy, and Magic Lantern...
Well, it's not even so much buggy, it's lacking features.
Okay, so the major feature, though, because this Magic Lantern software was primarily written for the Mark II, the 5D Mark II, which is way beyond our range.
5D Mark II is not so much way beyond our range, but the 5D Mark II, this is the little brother.
I don't have money for 5D Mark II.
It's what, 2.5 times as expensive?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's 2.5 times as expensive, but the important thing to remember is this is the baby 5D. Because it still uses the same lenses. It's not a full frame, so you're sacrificing the full frame. But
5D Mark II has got a sensor that's bigger than 35 millimeter film.
No, it is a 35 millimeter film.
Yeah, that's freaking huge.
Yeah. Well, this is what is this? 4/3?
Somebody will correct us. It's either half or a quarter, but I can't remember right now. I think it's half frame.
It's half. I think it's bigger than half after. Anyway,
this is where we get emails.
Yeah, exactly. Angry emails, feedback at hack5.org.
So the feature that it adds that we're absolutely in love with is the fact that it overrides the auto gain control. Yes. The auto gain control is basically an element of the video camera that changes the microphone, the levels on the microphone, and that can be a real pain.
It's based on the room. So if you're in a quiet room, the gain will have a tendency to raise, so your subject is going to get louder. So if you're shooting
really quiet, then
it
raises the
really,
noise
really,
floor.
really loud and progressively loud.
And then we get really loud, it brings it back down, and you can't get those subtleties with the explosion being like that and the music being like that.
Well, the more important thing to remember, though, is it's not so much the subtleties, is the fact that when the gain goes up, the white noise goes up with it, so you end up with... and that's not what you want.
Yeah, and that's why we got these cameras, is so we can use like a shotgun mic or something like this.
Or the mics we're
wearing. The wireless mic packs, and actually do some quote-unquote real videography with it. In fact, isn't this what you use to shoot Hack 5?
Yes. I actually shoot Hack 5 on a T2i with Magic Lantern because of it gives me the exposure control and it gives me the all-important mic levels as well. Because I don't know how loud I am, and I have a tendency to talk loud, so I kind of need to know where
Kind of.
Yeah, Darren, you want to complain about me now?
Right. So anyway, so we've been playing with it for a little bit, and I mean, aside from that, and yes, Zebra mode as well, which is kind of cool. Coming. Zebra? Okay.
So the 5D has Zebra, and considering the T2i is in pre-alpha, is the stated.
Yeah.
So don't run out there and try this unless you like the leading, bleeding edge.
Yeah.
And we do. We're brave.
Yeah.
It's just.
Well, it's. Okay, so you can find more information over at magiclantern.wikia.com, and it's not that like it's thousands of people have run this on their 5D Mark IIs, and it hasn't broken it supposedly.
And tens of people have run it on their T2i,
including you.
Yes,
yeah, this just came out a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But essentially, what it does is you copy over, and it's actually pretty dead simple to install if you're any good with DD. But you copy over 3 files: a bin file, a FIS file, and a CFG file to the root of your SD card.
Yep.
You use a DD command that sets the SD card as bootable. Yep. You pop that in your camera, you turn it on.
And then you flash your firmware.
It flashes your firmware.
It kind of makes a manipulation of the firmware. It's not a full flash. And then it just basically says, okay, SD card's in there, run the auto exec. Runs the auto exec, you're up and running in Magic Lantern.
So it just kind of modifies your bootloader so that it checks to see if your SD card has an auto exec, and if it does, it'll boot off that. So while that SD card may have the Magic Lantern firmware in it right now, if I were to format this one and you booted off of this one, you would have your stock firmware again.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Well, the cool part is if you're interested in firmware development, this is a really good way to analyze how they go about doing it, because it's one of the few places that you're going to actually find open source firmware and so readily available. They have a bin bucket off of the site.
Yeah, and they've got like widgets and stuff that can be developed on top of that. You can
There's
commission
actually
stuff.
Python. So there's a good bit of Python that's written as well as, yeah.
That's sexy.
It's got a Python.
Do we get that for the 550D yet?
Yep.
Really?
It's in part of the repo. So if you go pull the repo, you can take a look at some of the Python in there. And it actually, for the most part, it's pretty easy to build. It's just GCC with, it's an ARM compiler. Anyway, it's pretty straightforward.
I'm just imagining a T2i with an iFi SD card, one of those Wi-Fi SD cards, a little bit of Python code, and there you go, you're pen testing from your camera.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe not. Anyway, wow. Have we geeked out on something we have never geeked out before on Hack5?
But it's so cool.
You can tell that we're absolutely rambling and a little bit hyper and very excited about camera stuff. So,
but you know what?
We shinies.
We can fix this. Let's throw it over to Shannon for some trivia.
Save us, Shannon.
Last week's trivia question was, Crystal Palace, a mountain facility in Colorado, is home to what joint Canada and United States organization? And the answer was NORAD. If you want to win some sweet Hack5 swag this week, go over to hack5.org/trivia and answer this question. What software is used to hack into NCOM's computer system? We'll be right back after a brief word with our sponsor.
If you've got a creative idea or want to start a new business, I recommend getting a domain name and web hosting from Domain.com. Domain.com has the domain you want, fast, easy, and inexpensive. With free domain tools including URL and email forwarding, DNS management, and transfer lock. Their Linux-powered hosting plans are dependable, flexible, and affordable too. With free setup and no commitment required, their deluxe hosting offers unlimited bandwidth and site builder pages at a mere $8.75 a month. They even make it dead simple to get started with plenty of free software like WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, and more, all installed in just a few clicks. And as a Hack5 viewer, you get an extra 15% off your order when you check out with coupon code HAK5. Got a great idea? It all starts with a great domain, domain.com.
So last week you saw the Android application that controlled the garage door attached to the Teensy, which was controlled by PHP. So this week we're going to show off how that Android application works and dive into it. So let's take a look. So it's a simple application that launches straight from an icon. So on that icon, instead of having a widget, it's actually just launching the same as an application. But the way I'm doing this is a little bit different, so it kind of gives it a widgety feel. So when you launch the application, you have a simple interface. The code with, I put an X for clearing the code and a bracket for backspacing out. Since we have two things here, we've got a gate and a door, I put checkboxes to denote each one. So when you have that, you enter the correct code, and it gives you a nice little notification saying that the code was accepted correctly and it is processing your request. So let's go ahead and look at the XML. Inside the XML, it's a fairly decent chunk of XML here. We start out, it's a linear view to put everything in, and the linear view is specified with gravitation. So setting the gravity to center vertical and center horizontal is going to pull it exactly as you see here to the center of the screen. Inside that, we have the table layout. The table layout, the only thing really special here is that I specify that it has a padding of 25, which gives us a nice border all the way around, and the stretch columns so that all the columns are equidistant. So I've got this nice border all the way around. So inside the first layout of the table view, I just go ahead and add to the first row inside the table view, a text view for the code itself. I go ahead and add our starting text of the word code and 5 pixels from the bottom, just to give it the look that we see here. Then inside the first row is the first row of buttons, ironically enough, with 3 buttons in each row. As you see, 0, 1 through 9, and then the X in the bracket, which I showed you. Then on the final row, we have a new table layout nested inside of it so that we can recenter up 2 instead of centering on 3, because you can't center 2 to 3 because you'll end up having things squished. You're going to squish these 2 rows here, and you're going to have dead space over here. So what I did was I inserted another table view, or another table layout, and inside another table layout, another table row with the gate and door checkboxes. So let's take a look at this gray background that you see behind the whole thing. That's actually, it's not an image. It's a gradient done with inside of XML, and it's a shape XML. So as you can see here, we have a shape XML that is of shape rectangle, which is specified here, which I give it corners. I entered a radius of 10 so that it'll just give it a nice rounded corners, as you can see here. And then I did the gradient. The gradient as the starting color, the ending color, and the angle. And that's what gives me the nice box. So then I don't have to go into Photoshop and deal with all of that and enter, create different sizes for different size screens. It can all be done in XML. So that's the interface. Whew. It's a large chunk of interface, but it's pretty important. One thing I didn't point out in the XML, but is still part of the user interface, is actually in the manifest. Inside the manifest.xml, we have the application tag here. Inside the application tag, we have the Android theme. The Android theme designates what the actual application looks like. This is what gives it the widgety feel. So what I did was I added the theme.translucent.noTitleBar. So it's not going to have a title bar, and the background's going to be see-through. So whatever you launched it from, it's going to be behind it. So that's going to it's going to give it the look of having a keypad floating right above what you're doing. So let's take a look at actually how the application processes the information. The first thing I need to do is go ahead and grab the code, gate, and door UI elements from the XML. So it's just find element by ID, and then I just specify the ID that I set inside the XML. I've created the on-click listener here, which this on-click is specified in the XML, so you don't actually have to grab all the buttons and set it. You can set it straight in the XML. It's just the on-click event, and you just set on-click. What that's going to do is it's going to return a view, and then I'm just going to, since the only thing I set the on-click to, I'm just going to assume it's of type button. Then what I'm going to do is grab the text from the button, because the button text indicates what we want to do, and compare it to exactly what's going on. So if it's X, clear it out. If it's backspace, go ahead and remove the last character, so on and so forth. Since we're dealing with a 4-digit code, I went ahead and assumed 4 digits. So when the code length, the length of the code entered is 4, it's going to go ahead and start an asynchronous task. It's a task that runs in the background so it doesn't hang your UI thread. Because a lot of applications you see force close. When those applications force close, that's basically saying, hey, I don't know what's going on, the UI is not responding. It's just going to exit. Asynchronous task means it's a task going on in the background while your UI is still running. So let's go ahead and head on down to that task itself. In order to create an asynchronous task, you're going to need 3 functions. You're going to need do in background, on progress update, and on post execute. What that does is when it finishes the task, That's called, and it posts the results to the UI thread. So it updates the UI thread, or in our case, sends a notification. So let's go ahead and take a look at the actual post thread. So doing in background, what the actual thread or the task is doing. So it's going to get the code and check to see it's going to have the code, it's going to check to see whether the gate box is checked or the door and gate boxes are checked, and figure out the combination to set the open string. The open string basically is something we set up in PHP to say, hey, if you do gate, send this code to the TNC, or door, send this code to the TNC, or if it doesn't specify either, open both. So let's take a look at the code itself. Like we said, since we're salting our hash, we're going to go ahead and take the code, add the salt, and then perform the MD5. Once we have the MD5 hash done on the code plus the salt, we can put that into the URL string, which you see here, and then process the URL string. So all we're going to do is, for the buffered reader, inside the buffered reader, you're going to have a stream reader, and inside the stream reader, you're going to have a URL. The URL spits out a stream reader, which then goes into the buffered reader. And in order to make the whole thing execute, you just read the line. So when I read the line, all it's going to do is then spit out what the PHP has spit back. This goes ahead and cleans up the results based on known information from the PHP string and builds the response, the notification you see. Once it's go ahead and finish, and the result's not null, so it actually worked, then it goes ahead and executes on post execute. All it's doing is returning the code back to the code state. Then it's going to go ahead and create a toast notification. Those are little notifications that pop up in the bottom of Android, or they can be moved wherever. But those are those little hovering notifications. And all I'm doing is returning exactly what the PHP script spit out into our toast notification. And as you can see here, I'm just pushing to the toast notification, and when it's done, I'm closing the app. Because if the code's right, why do you need the app still open? So that is a pretty straightforward run through of exactly what's going on here. It's pretty simple. I know there was a lot to cover there. All of it's posted in the show notes, code included. You can take a look. If you have any questions, email me, jason@hack5.org.
Sir, debris heading towards our comm satellite. Impact may cut off communications with ground forces.
Launch avoidance maneuver. 20 kilometers in closing.
Collision averted, sir. All objects are accounted for.
Good job.
Learn more at airforce.com.
Once again, having the pleasure of being joined in studio by Snubs. What's up, girl?
Hey, what's up? How's it going, man?
Dude, it's so great. I'm glad that we could totally snipe this studio.
Shh, don't tell nobody. Yeah, we kind of like ninja'd our way into the Revision 3 studio.
She's a ninja.
Nobody knows.
So, what are we talking about today? Because you've been going off while you've been in Missouri about all these cool things that you've been finding. So
I've been finding tons of cool
little
little like bootable thingies and games and all sorts of crazy stuff that I know you guys are gonna love. Okay, so you remember the multipass, right?
I love the multipass.
Yes.
Yes. One of my favorite segments of the 6th season, because it was one of those things where you could take all of these different operating systems that you use all the time, put them on your geek stick, if you will, so you can your USB drive that you around the office to take care of. Anyway, yeah, it was a great educational experience too. If you've never played with like bootloaders like Grub, getting in there down dirty, editing configuration files, and learning about how
it is a little bit down and dirty. And personally, for myself, I like things easy and simple, but I also like to get my hands dirty with a lot of these cool OSs.
Okay.
So I found this one called Katana Portable Multi-Boot Security Suite.
Ooh, I love the name already, and it's going with
Katana.
the ninja theme. All right. No, I'm keeping the pen from you. What's going on with this? So is it a point and click kind of? We've got
sort of.
What does it include?
It's just very easy to install, and it includes all of your favorite OSs as well as some toolkits. So this brings together all the best security distributions
We've
that you
talked
could
about
ever
quite
want
a
to use.
bit.
The Backtrack 4,
Love it.
Ultimate Boot CD, Off-Crack Live, Puppy Linux, which I love the Puppy Linux, so cute.
You've talked about Off-Crack Live as well. So
Yes.
is it a lot of security suites. What else?
It also comes with a bunch of toolkits. These include Wireshark, Firefox, PuTTY, Unstoppable Copier, which I like. I love
Yeah, so a
Unstoppable.
bunch of the tools that we've talked about
Yes.
as well. So this sounds like a great wrap-up of a lot of stuff that we've done,
Right.
and making it easy for people to play
Makes
with
it a lot easier for like anybody to use, really. And the installation is extremely, extremely simple.
Okay, run me down. What do we do?
Okay, so first off, you do need a 8 gig or higher USB flash drive with at least 4 gigs of free space, and it has to be formatted to FAT32.
All right.
And if you have any virus scanners working, you have to turn those off because a lot of these are considered like hacker tools, and
Right.
and antivirus programs will flag them. You
Yeah.
know, they'll freak out and be like,
I
"Oh,
hate when
watch
that
out!"
happens. Websites get flagged.
Are
Now,
you sure you wanna
Hack5.org got
download it?
flagged because we were
I
hosting some
know.
tools, and I'm
What the
like,
heck?
what? That's our tool that disables antivirus.
I'm like,
Why
you
would
know,
you flag us
we're
as
working
a
for the good
hack site?
people. We're on the good side.
We are on the good side. We keep saying that. So,
The force be with you.
so with your USB drive freshly formatted, ready to go, FAT32,
All right, download the Katana RAR file.
obviously.
That's it. No, I'm just kidding.
No, really?
Yes, and then you have to extract the USB, extract the RAR to your root of the USB flash drive,
Obviously.
and that's so you can, boot off of it. And then you got to change the directory to the freshly copied boot directory of the USB device. AKA, you need to open the folder.
Well, you're probably already there since you copied
Yes.
and pasted it there. All right. Wow. So far, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this.
Oh my gosh, I know. Okay, the next part's really easy. You right-click, and then you go to Run as Administrator under the /boot install.bat.
Okay, so there's a batch file that installs it all for you, but you run it as admin.
Right.
Dead simple.
And then after that, you're ready to go. You make sure that your computer's BIOS is ready to run off of a USB instead of the regular like Windows.
Right? And if you can boot off
you can boot
Off-Crack,
off of it.
now you can boot off Off-Crack and Puppy Linux and Backtrack 4 and everything.
And it's so easy. I love it. And it's very, very simple. If you see here, I'll show you what the beginning of it looks like.
Oh, nice.
So you can just go through the different ones. There's, you have Backtrack up at the top and Off-Crack and all of those.
Nice. Very cool. It looks very much like Grub. And then,
And it's simple. It's very user-friendly. That's
so what
nice.
about if I want to add I mean, it sounds like a really cool idea, but not everybody's, all geeks are not built the same, trust
Right.
me. And they might need different tools. Is this something where I could
Yes.
is it kind of like a framework
Some
where I
people
can add
want
onto
different
this?
things, and you can add on, and it gives you directions for all sorts of other programs in their FAQ and on their website.
Where will we find this?
You can find this over at hackfromacave.com/katana,
Hacking from a cave!
which actually kind of looks like a cave, their website,
Unlike the egg crate that we are inside of right now.
surprisingly enough.
Thank you so much, Shannon. This is great.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool. Well, I guess we will see you in 2 weeks back here.
Yay!
All right. And until then, we are going to thank one of our wonderful sponsors and be right back.
If you're an IT or software consultant, you're always looking for ways to be competitive. You need to grow your business but can't be in 2 places at once. That's why there is remote support with the new GoToAssist Express. The faster you can connect to a customer, the faster you can move on to the next challenge. With GoToAssist, you will increase revenue by handling more support requests, reduce travel time and overhead costs, support clients even when they're not at their computer, and rise above the competition by providing faster, more professional service. Try GoToAssist Express free for 30 days. For this special offer, you must visit gotoassist.com/hack5. That's gotoassist.com/HAK5 for a free trial.
Well, that just about wraps up this episode of Hack 5. Of course, we're going to check out your Technolust photo in just a moment. But Shannon, do we get any emails in their inbox?
Maybe. Yeah, we get tons and tons of feedback over at feedback@hack5.org. And a lot of times we get questions that plenty of you guys answer. So we'd like to answer a few of those on today's episode.
Excellent. So let's start it off.
Okay, so the first one we got was just watch the password bookmark feature. I've been using LastPass for a while now. It's great. It has similar capability, but it can store passwords and autofill for password generation and log in. I think you should check it out. Everything is 256-bit encrypted and has been featured on Security Now with Steve Gibson. So I think you should check it out. And that's from Jamie.
Well, thanks, Jamie. That sounds awesome. I'm a big fan of anything that's encrypted 256.
Me too.
So I'm glad that you could fill us in so we could let you guys know. And if you, if you're watching and you're like, no, dude, it's totally this other one, like, let us know. Maybe we'll do a roundup and put them all to the test.
Yeah, why not? Our top 5.
A top 5 sounds good.
The second email we got was from Christopher. He says, I love the show. Thank you, Chris. The recent segment on controlling the garage door with using a PHP class was great. I was wondering if y'all use XRDP for your remote desktop connections in Linux.
No, I don't. I just use Remote Desktop Viewer, and I also like the Terminal Services client that's just built into Ubuntu, but I will definitely check that out. Thank you. Maybe we'll do a wrap up here. Also, I know that there's some really cool stuff that you can do with X11.
Yeah.
So we should probably get into that.
Probably.
Yeah, when we get you on Ubuntu.
Ooh, yay.
Yes.
Ubuntu. Woo! And the last question this week was, just watched the latest episode and I couldn't see your breadboard all that well. So I'm not sure you protected your controller. When you drive a relay, everything is fine. However, when you turn off the relay, you get a huge spike traveling backwards. And he sends us a link over to this diode wiki. It can burn out your controller and you need to protect it with a diode, or better yet, drive your relays with a Darlington array. And that's from Nathaniel.
Wow, okay, and this is why, I'm just an amateur when it comes to breadboard and electronic stuff. I love it, don't get me wrong, but there's so much stuff that I'm not an EE, but so many of you are, and I'm thankful that you send that by. I didn't realize that could even happen, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna look into that.
So
Sounds
you didn't
cool.
protect yours?
I guess not.
this way?
Yeah,
Oh,
he's saying that
interesting.
the relay might be, when it cuts the voltage, it might like send some signal back and kill the teensy, and that would be no good.
Yeah.
I mean, they're only $18.
I want to kill the teensy.
Yeah, I don't want to be stuck outside the garage and I can't get back into the house.
That'd be kind of funny.
Yeah.
For me.
So we want to thank you guys for sending those in. Remember, you can send those to feedback@hack5.org. We love to hear what you guys think of the show. Just try to keep it short because there's so much of it. So I want to also let you know that you can support the show for free and easy by subscribing on iTunes, YouTube, hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. Also, don't forget that you can get awesome Hack 5 swag over at hack5.org/store, including the new...
Brand new hoodies.
Yeah, they're all cozy and technolusty.
They're so warm. I love mine.
Sweet. And speaking of Technolust, let's check out our Technolust photo of the week.
Yes, this week's is from Chris, and he made an LCD rubber ducky teensy. And Chris, we love Hack 5 too. Thank you.
Aw. Yeah,
a good picture.
I love the PJRC stuff. You can get Paul, the guy that makes the teensies, also makes a lot of other projects and kits and stuff, and I know he makes some LCD stuff that's really neat.
Cool.
So thanks for sending that in. Of course, you guys can just send that over to feedback@hack5.org, pop Technolust in the subject line, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Till next week, I'm Shannon Morse.
I'm Darren Kitchen.
And remember to trust your Technolust.
Let's go get sushi.
Yes! Oh, sushi. Oh, yes!
Save us, Shannon. There's no saving.
No.
That was just a fuck. What the f was that?
In case there's any damages.
Whoa, were we all over the place? Yep. See, better clap, it's gonna be a better take.
Nice.
Yes.
One take snaps.
If anybody actually made it through that segment, they get achievement points.
Yes, they do.
In fact, let's give them another hint to the dark net.